So welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have back with us John Gyngell, who's the director at North Brewing Company. And John, thanks so much for coming back and talking to us again. And
No
if you'd
problem.
like to introduce yourself and North to the audience, that'd be wonderful.
Cool. Hi everyone. John Gyngell, co-founder and co-owner of North Brewing and North Bar. We're based in Leeds. We've got 10 bars now, which is slightly more than this time last year.
Brilliant.
We started in 1997 with North Bar, which many of you might know from New Briggate in Leeds. Small little kind of dive bar that we opened 25 years ago. And that's evolved gradually over the years. And now we've got the 10 bars, and 7-8 years ago, we started North Brewing Co. And that's it was a kind of small microbrewery, which has subsequently turned into a larger microbrewery. And we export all around the world. We sell there into all the supermarkets, distribution nationwide. So that's the update.
Wonderful. And we spoke last year, as you say, you had 8. I know you had eyes on 2 in Manchester and Birmingham, if memory serves. And so alongside that, what else has changed for you over this last year since we last spoke, John?
Well, the only constant is change.
Yep.
That's something you probably get used to in business and probably in life, but the only thing that doesn't change is the fact that change changes constantly.
Yes.
And every day I think has been a challenge. It's been, the kind of the major headlines are that probably the last 12 months have been worse than the COVID years.
Right.
Just simply for the fact that we are by ourselves. You realise pretty soon that all the challenges you face in business, there's not. It feels like the government, we're a relatively small business, and the government really don't care about us. So that's probably been the major factor over the past 12 months, at least during COVID. We were all in it together, I guess.
Yeah.
And that support, everyone had that support.
Yes.
And then coming out of COVID, you see the huge profits made by the electricity and gas and utility suppliers, and then the number of businesses that you'll know and I know and everyone listening probably know that have gone out of business because they just can't face those rising costs. And then food inflation obviously is a major issue for us. But it's been, do you know what? It continues to be fun. We don't, at North, we don't stop. Every day is a challenge, but every day is an opportunity.
Yeah.
So we won't be beaten.
Good man. That's really great to hear. Has there been has there been a change from your perspective, people's sort of drinking habits in terms of, lockdown was obviously we couldn't go out, then I guess we all went out. But with prices rising and stuff, are you seeing fewer people visiting, or is it really primarily the underlying costs that's sort of a big challenge for you?
It's strange because again, I think COVID has exacerbated change.
Yes.
But then, like I said earlier, I think that the only constant is change. So that the current picture, I think people are getting very carried away with kind of the working week and working from home situation. I think that will change. I think it's all I think so. I guess the things that have changed are that Fridays are definitely quieter, depending on where you are as well. If you've got great suburban bars, which we have, those bars are busier. If you've got city centre bars next to stations, those bars are quieter. But then Thursday nights are better. Straight after COVID, it was every day of the week.
Yeah.
And now I think what we do is good, and I think there'll always be a need for good. What we saw after the last recession was that people either went cheap or quality and expensive. And I think the best example of that was in the supermarkets.
Yep.
But the supermarkets that thrived were Lidl and Aldi.
Yep.
And probably Waitrose and M&S. And the mid-grounds kind of not disappeared, because obviously Tesco and Sainsbury's don't disappear, but they didn't do as well. And I think it's not, sorry, when I said earlier, it's cheap or good, it's not, it's value.
Yes.
And I think people, when times are hard, search for value. And what we do, we might be more expensive than other places, but we provide value for people.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen a dip in our bars.
Right.
The brewery's selling more beer than ever. Our bars are doing better than they ever have done. But that's not to say it hasn't been a challenge.
Yeah.
And the landscape has shifted. Definitely that young people are drinking less. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, they're spending all the time in gyms and being healthy. But again, that at some point that shifts again. Everything shifts. The working week pattern that we have currently will shift. I think that a number of people I've spoken to, I think kind of the mental health issues that working from home exacerbate, and I think people going into the office, people having fun, people making friends, people having relationships, people falling out. It's what we need as human beings. I don't think we were made to sit in our a small home office, if you're lucky enough to have a small office. So I think that will change. I think a lot of the stuff written about working from home has been written by people who have large gardens and a nice home office. And if you've got 2 kids at home and you haven't got a home office and you haven't got a garden, then working from home is really, really rubbish.
Yes.
And I would much rather be in the office and go out for a drink after work.
Yeah.
But so I think that will shift, but it's difficulty for, we have difficulty forecasting. We have difficulty, it means that our shift patterns change, the costs per day change. So it's a constantly shifting place that we're in, but that's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's when we talked last time, we talked about longevity as being a success and a win, which it massively is. And I remember you talked about bar years being like dog years. So having a bar that's been 25 years old is an incredible achievement.
Yeah.
Thinking about wins, it'd be good to know a little bit about how opening the two new bars has gone, and any of the wins that you've had over the last year.
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because I was doing I did a presentation in Birmingham a couple of months ago, and I was asked the same question, and I started talking about the brewery and completely forgot about the 2 new bars that we just opened, because it's moving so quickly at the moment. You kind of do something and go, right, done, next. And it was only because I had a presentation behind me that showed a picture of one of the new bars that we opened 2 new bars. So I mean, I guess the biggest wins in this environment are opening 2 new bars, because we don't have a pot of cash lying about, so we had to really kind of drag those over the line, which was really, really tough. And again, difficult in the business where one area of the business might not be doing brilliantly, and you've got people who you can't afford to pay more, you can't give wage rises, you might be making some people redundant, but yet over there you're opening a bar.
Yeah.
So kind of the internal discussions that we had around that were very difficult. But the wins, we opened 2 new bars, definitely Manchester and Birmingham. They've been not without issues, because train strikes again have kind of put a bit of a stop on certain weeks that we've had. Right, other wins. Return of export, that's been exciting.
Oh right, yes, of course.
So we didn't stop exporting during COVID, but it's back with not a vengeance, but it's back.
Great.
Brexit is providing its own glorious difficulties. and we do have certain countries, particularly within Europe, who it's just, became too much trouble for them.
Yeah.
Because it's not, we brew great beer, but Britain isn't alone in brewing great beer. So, you might have a country like Spain or Italy who, they can buy beer from Denmark or Italy or Spain but definitely the return of export, and it's been great to travel again.
Yes.
It's been great to catch up with friends. We've started exporting to China again.
Brilliant.
That obviously came with its particular difficulties.
Yeah.
We had that was our biggest export market pre-COVID.
I remember, yes.
And within that period, it's just been, it's obviously fallen off a cliff because China was pretty much shut down for 2.5, 3 years. Our last shipment that we made at the end of COVID, it took us, I think shipping costs were probably about 10 times higher than they had been. So very little money was being made by either end.
Yes, yes, of course.
And it was all made in the middle on the sea. And then I think the boat was kept in quarantine outside Shanghai for 6 weeks. So by the time our beer got there, it was kind of just too late so both sides kind of didn't do very well out of that. But we've seen a return to China, which is great, and hope to get out there later in the year. Another win. We now sell our beer in Wagamama.
Oh, right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's great. So, we're in every Wagamama in the country. So we've got 2 beers in every Wagamama, which is amazing. And we've just been listed in Dishoom as well, which is quite exciting. So kind of to be associated with 2 brands like Wagamama and Dishoom it's very cool and helps us nationwide as well. It kind of raises our profile.
Yes.
Trust that other companies like that then might have in us. It's a kind of tick before you even start speaking. Really? So I guess highlights. There's probably a million more highlights that I've failed to tell you about or remember. But yeah, there we go.
And going back to what you said slightly earlier, how good would you say you are at celebrating your wins?
Oh, we're rubbish. We don't even think about them, to be honest. Like I said, I've forgotten about the 2 bars that would opened about a week later after we opened them. So we're rubbish at that, and that's something we need to get better at.
Yeah.
Because we do something and we move on to the next thing that we think we have to do or know we have to do, and then the reality is that we should stop and gather the team together and say, we did this. It was horrible. It was challenging. It was exciting. It has ruined our bank account, everything else, but we've done it. And when it all comes down to it, what's important is it money or is it thing? And it'd be nice to me, but the fact we've done something is much more important, I think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, John. I speak to lots of business owners, entrepreneurial people, and there's a fairly common factor with sort of at least 80% of them that we don't celebrate our wins.
Yeah.
And the challenge, we're always looking at what's yet to do, what we haven't done, what's next. And the challenge for me with that is that we need, when times are eroding our confidence, those sorts of things, even our mental health, it's really important to have celebrated, to have built it. That's the build-up that then can be eroded over time. It's almost like a deposit and a withdrawal. You can't deposit. So if we don't go those brilliant, well done, however hard it was, we made it, and without it, it starts to become just hard.
Do you know what? That is a brilliant way of looking at it. Because if you don't take out, you get to the point where you're done. You give and push and push and push, and you don't stop.
Yes.
And I think kind of, over the past 12 months, I think both myself and Christian, the other co-founder, we've looked at ourselves, and we've there have been times when we've been absolutely broken, absolutely ruined. But again, you don't give yourself any time to be broken or ruined.
No.
think if you do stop and celebrate those wins, then actually that period where you might get to is pushed further down the line. And we've definitely had moments this year when you just think, do you know what, I am cooked. You know, and not in a good way.
No, but I can only say, as you know, from what I do, it's so key, John. It's a fallacy. If I you know, take a bit of time to celebrate, that doesn't mean everything else is shifting. It just means this is part of the job. If that makes sense. It's like, you know, it's like you know, work with sales teams and they say, well, they don't want to do the paperwork. Well, paperwork's part of your job. It's like you have to do that as well. And I think, if not for yourself, then for our teams,
it's a really, really important thing. Because you know, I guess we wouldn't say it, but we are the most important cog in a machine.
Yes.
Without us, the machine disappears and falls down. And if that cog isn't oiled or looked after, the machine falls apart, right?
100%.
Yeah, and we've been rubbish at that. You know, taking holidays. I am awful at taking holidays. Awful. And I love holidays. You know, the last time I had a holiday, which was a holiday, was last June. You know, I'm not including 3 nights in Barcelona with 2 boys, because that's really hard work. and you come back, you know, more drawn and knackered than you were before you went. It's a good trip, but you know, I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. But yeah, it's really important, and I think kind of that's definitely something I need to be better at.
It's a bit of a double whammy because you're right about we've got to look after ourselves. We are the, you know, a very significant asset in the business. If we weren't running properly, there's a problem. But the other thing that we often say in Action Coach is you know, life's a mirror. You know, our lives are a mirror of ourselves. Our businesses are mirrors of the owners, and if the owners are tired, then the business becomes tired. And you can't go, well, I'll just take it on the chin and I'll make sure everyone else is happy. We've got to do that. I think it's
true. I think, you know, I'm very fortunate that I have a partner who likes running and who likes being healthy, and because you know, I'll get home tonight and we'll go for a run, and it'll be sunny. Whereas if it was me, I'm highly likely to go home and it's sunny, so I might have a beer. Now, no doubt we'll have a beer tonight, but we'll have a beer after we've done 10K.
Brilliant.
So, you know, there's a bit of kind of give and take there, which is really, really important. And you know, I don't think if I didn't run, and I didn't have a brilliant 9-year-old to look after, then you know, my head might be slightly ajar.
Yes. No, I totally get that. So what you know, from looking back over the last year, what learnings can you draw from both the wins and the challenges that you've had?
I guess the resilience. I think, you know, Christ, you can, you know, the human species is pretty remarkable. You know, when you look at kind of where you could be or what you've done or how you've faced down that challenge, how you've, you know, because it's, you know, we've been to points in the past 12 months, in the past 4 years, that have been ridiculously low.
Yeah.
You know, there was one morning, probably September time, and you know, stupidly, you're looking on socials and you're looking at Twitter, and it's telling you how much the price of CO2 has gone up, and we use a lot of gas here.
Yes.
And I think it was during the fertilizer crisis, the fertilizer plants had closed down. So there's no CO2 in the country, and the prices have gone up by 10% or 10 times, sorry. And then at the same time, your grain suppliers decided to add another 50% to their bill. Not decided, they've had to pass it on. And at the same time, the utility companies are saying your prices are going to go up by 250%. And you know, I was in bed one Saturday morning looking at Twitter, thinking, Yeah, I think we're done. You know, if that is true, and that is true, there's not a cat in hell's chance we're making any money. So, and at that point, you know, I remember speaking to Harry, who is in our accounts department. It was Saturday day, and I rang him and said, "I'm really sorry. I know it's Saturday, but I just need to know where we're up to with our utility contracts, because otherwise my weekend is my head's going to explode."
Yes.
Fortunately, we're in a contract at the brewery in particular till October 24.
Right.
So I could get some sleep that night. But when you've been there, and I remember, you know, turning to my partner and saying, "I think we're done. I think we're out." And then you have, you know, in your head, you're having discussions about, okay, well, what does that look like? How many people are now unemployed? You know, do I get to keep the house? You know, what happens to the children? All these things that add up in your head, and that can be quite, you know, if I didn't have Christian and a brilliant partner, etc., then, you know, that's a very, very lonely place to be.
Yes.
But then, you know, an hour later, you've had a discussion with Harry in accounts, and you're looking forward and you're changing things, and then, you know, 2 months later, you open a bar in Manchester. A month later, you open a bar in Birmingham, and then, you know, Wagamama pick up the phone, etc. So it's all these things.
Yes.
Just, you know, again, you know, the only constant is change, and you know what could be, you know, a horrible moment for you at 10 o'clock, by 3 o'clock, you're in a different place.
Yeah.
So, you know, in terms of learnings, the resilience is
yeah,
and the resilience of the team is absolutely insane. You know, and I doff my cap to them all because it's been brilliant.
That's wonderful. There's a saying that one of my colleagues introduced me to a little while ago, which I found really fascinating, and across so many different ways. But it is as simple as everything is neutral till we add meaning to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of, you know, and the challenge, you know, the challenge we have is, in general, there's so much negative news.
Yeah.
It you know, positive news doesn't seem to sell, so let's focus on the negative. And it's the challenge is we build the wall of negatives, don't we? And it's so important, I think, to choose. I think the other phrase that I really like is monitor my reaction, but choose my response.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And, you know, okay, there's a reaction to those things, but the response can be whatever I choose it to be.
It can, and also you don't have to listen to those things. You know, it's important to know about them. It's important, you know, I'm not saying shut off your mind to what's happening in the world, because it's the world and we need to know.
Yes.
But in the morning, do I put the TV on? No. I put the radio on and I listen to music.
Great.
Because if you've got the news there telling you how crap today is and how crap tomorrow is going to be, you're gonna leave the house thinking, I'm exhausted. If you're dancing around your kitchen and singing, then you're not. So it's you know, there are small things I guess you can do, which is not watch the news.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Because all it's going to do is get you down.
It's not designed to bring you up. It really isn't.
No.
They don't even have the panda baby story at the end of the news anymore.
No, you don't.
And finally, there's something positive going on in the world.
Yeah, what happened to that?
I don't know.
What happened to Anne finally? Nothing. Gone.
It's nuts. It's just, you don't know. So how, I mean, choosing how we react, I think, is really, really key. And I'm going to ask you for if you've got any other quotes or things that you use, but one of the ladies, I interviewed a lady a little while ago, and one of the things you said that I've kept, which I think is fascinating, is that it is that we've all survived 100% of our challenges so far.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I think one thing I often do when I'm talking to people when we've been through challenging times is to, when we've got through it, is to look back and say, do you remember how scary that felt? And yet we got through it. Yeah. And that's the building block of resilience in many ways.
Yeah. I think I said this to you last year. I think, you know, there's not a quote, but we say this more than anything else, that it'll be all right.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
It'll be all right, and it will be. It'll be all right. And whatever we do, I remember with Christian, sorry you can't see it out there. The brewery that we've built is insane, and we built it during lockdown.
Brilliant.
And you can look out of our boardroom window, our office window, and look at it and think. I said to Christian, "Do you remember doing this?" And he said, "Yeah, just about." And starting it, looking at it now, thinking, would we be able to do that now? Your first thought is, no, God, I wouldn't be able to do that now. Of course you could. If we didn't have it, we'd do it. If we didn't have it, we'd build it. And, we must have said a million times while building it, be all right. You're importing these massive, 150 hect tanks from China. Of course you are. That's what you do. But to look at it in isolation, though, would you do it? Could you do it? Probably not. But yeah, of course you can.
Brilliant.
You can do anything, right?
Absolutely.
I remember talking to. I've got a friend who's got a medical supply business, and we went for a walk in lockdown, and we were chatting, and he said, "Yeah, I've just hired a plane from China, full of PPE." And I was just laughing my head off, thinking, "Of course you have." How do you go about doing that? How do you start that process? You get a plane to fly from China to the UK full of PPE. How? But you did it. It was amazing. You're kind of there thinking, "This is brilliant. Can do anything." Of course you can.
My favourite, one of my favourite quotes is a Henry Ford quote, which is as simple as, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right."
Yeah. Yeah.
And because once you think you can, then it's about the how, not the whether you can. And it's just like, okay, and if it really is a sort of foundation of creative thinking. Because if I think I can, therefore I start to think about the how. Now, if ultimately I can't find a how, maybe I couldn't.
Yeah.
But if my brain just goes, I can't, then the process doesn't even exist.
Yeah. And that ability to kind of, I guess what you do in your head, you look at it and go, right, yeah, it's massive. But it's not massive all at once, is it? It's a thousand things that are all relatively small that you just work through.
It's really I don't know if you're aware of the story. It's a bit, but it's true story. Is that if you I wasn't around, but you weren't around, but obviously you might be familiar with Roger Bannister, the first man to do the 4-minute mile, which at the time was considered an impossible human feat. Are you aware how many people broke 4 minutes within 12 months of Roger doing it?
No.
I think it's 37.
You see, how annoying is that, though? How annoying.
I wasn't thinking of it then. I mean, as soon as somebody else had,
you can do it.
Without him doing it, they probably wouldn't. And I think that's the key thing. And it's just like, if somebody else has, then I can too.
Yeah. And it might have been annoying for Roger, but there's only one name that people know. No one knows he's the 36, right?
I'm sure he's delighted. Absolutely. He's the first one. He's the only one that we remember.
Yeah.
And yet all those other people were being held back purely by the thought that they couldn't. Probably.
Yeah.
If that
absolutely. Yeah. It changes your thought process, and then you break it down and go, right, okay, do this differently.
It's funny because I think not formally, but I think the 2-hour marathon's been broken recently. Not officially because I think they had like multiple. But I remember reading or listening to a radio program. Probably it was pre-lockdown. Let's say 6-7 years ago, and it was about, would it ever happen? And it was considered an impossible feat. And they even had the reporter, who was a runner, get on a treadmill at that speed, and he was literally, flying off the back within a couple of seconds. And it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely consider a 2-hour marathon completely impossible. I'm not going to attempt that.
Yes, I think there are certain things we've got to accept are impossible for individuals like myself. Certainly,
I guess that's the other thing as well. I mean, not bigging ourselves up, but there's only certain people who can think like that, or who can attempt that. It's not no one's, we all, no one, not all of us can run a 2-hour marathon.
No.
You have to be supremely gifted. You have to be born in the right place, to the right family necessarily, or all these things that go together to contribute to that very, very specific thing.
Absolutely, but I'm pretty confident now it's been done. It will be done again.
Absolutely, yeah. I could have been a professional footballer, but what
yes, we won't go there. So looking forward, John, obviously it was great to hear about the two you delivered on the 2 bars that were in the plan last time. And what does the future look like for you, and what challenges might you face, if any?
Well, the challenges continue. Obviously, food inflation is still crazy. It's funny, we're talking about the news, and you look at the news, and it's seen as a success that inflation has come down below 10%, which it hasn't come down. It's still going up by 9 point something. So it's a big challenge, and I think you spoke about it earlier, the pressures that puts on families and people, and mortgage costs going up, and all these things that contribute to people going out and drinking beer, not drinking beer. It's a massive worry, and it's touch wood, it's not a problem that is going to see me thrown out of my house over the next 6 months, but it's not a nice place for people to be.
Yes.
And if you're coming to the end of your mortgage agreement in the next week, then you're going to be £300, £400, £500 a month worse off. And I'm not sure where people can find that sort of money from.
Yeah.
So that's a difficulty. But I guess all the difficulties we're facing on we can't do it really. We can't affect that. We can't do anything about that. We just have to look after ourselves. And staffing continues to be an issue. I think one thing that COVID has done has affected how people look at their lives and look at jobs. And we're definitely getting more people saying, well, I can only work Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons. And you say, well, it's a bar, right? And it's doesn't matter. That's what I can do. That's what I want to do, because I love my weekends. And it's interesting that's changed.
Yes.
I think again that will change again, but it provides us with the challenge that working in a bar isn't seen as something that maybe it's desirable as it was 5 years ago. I don't know, but it feels that way to me.
Yeah.
Or maybe just working isn't as desirable as it was 5 years ago. So staffing is an issue, but I think we've got a great team, and I think the way we look after them has shifted, and the way we talk to them has shifted. Which again, when I'm 51, it's a different challenge to when I was 25. So that it's a challenge, but it's also I guess what we all do in business is every challenge is just an opportunity. That's all it is. You might have someone who you think is amazing who hands in the resignation because they've got another new job somewhere else. First thought is, oh, good. But second thought is, right, okay, can we do better? Can we improve everything? Can we change the job title? Can we change the role? Can we change the specifics? And what do we really want from that person? So it's every challenge is an opportunity. Yeah. So we can look at it and be down and be sad but no, come on, crack on, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It goes back for me. It's that whether you think you can or think you can't be right. It's like without a positive attitude, but you don't get a positive outcome without a positive attitude. I really don't think so. I think you'd be if you getting a positive attitude outcome with a negative attitude would just be luck. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's interesting for business owners out there, because I think we spend a lot of time looking after people.
Yes.
But there aren't many people who spend a lot of time looking after us.
No.
Which is really, really interesting. And I think aside from personal problems, inside the business, there's only two people, and that's the founders, who are really going through the mill. Everyone else has struggles and issues, but I think, probably a lot of the owners out there can really relate to the fact that, a lot of the time you spend looking after people, when really there are days when you think, oh my God, have I got in it? Is it inside me to look after someone and to give? Yeah, it is, because you manage it. You manage that. You've got that resilience, haven't you?
Yes, but it is also really important to find those mechanisms for our own support. It really is absolutely fundamental, however that works.
Yeah.
Because we, as I say, life's a mirror, business is a mirror. We can't operate a positively minded business if we're feeling knackered.
No. Well, I'm heading to San Sebastian next week, and I cannot wait.
Oh, lovely!
I'm going to spend the week in the sunshine, eating and drinking,
eating those wonderful is it pink
shots? Yeah.
Wonderful, beautiful place that is.
Yeah.
Extremely dangerous roller coaster by all accounts. I think I seem to remember. I don't know if you've ever been on the roller coaster, but
no.
Health and safety is definitely. It goes around the. It sort of goes around the mountain. It's not a big. It's more of a kiddies island. We took our kids. So, I think Fiona would have been about 10 and Phoebe was 6 or something. So it's just got a little bar, but it's actually quite scary. It's one of those. Sort of goes. You go up behind there. It's not far at all, but it would have been closed down because health and safety was not really top of the agenda when we did it, I have to say.
Yeah. Well, you might not be interviewing me next year.
Yeah, who knows? So just are there any sort of new initiatives we should be looking out for from you guys over the next 12 months, John?
We're looking for new bars. We've got nothing in the pipeline, but we're not looking at specific cities. We're looking at unit. So if we see the right unit, and location, then we'll look at the city. So we look at it that way rather than city. So we're looking at things. Nothing imminent. We've got a deal to launch our beers in the States, which is quite exciting.
Wow.
We continue to gain kind of more listings in the supermarkets. We've got discussions going on left, right, and centre. It's you'll open your emails, and not emails are always open, right? You don't open your email. You don't log in, do you? So you look at your emails, and there's something that will pop up virtually every day, which is like, yep, that's amazing. So loads of things in the pipeline, but nothing specific that I can share with you right now, I'm afraid. Apart from the US distro, which is very, very exciting.
That's very exciting, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the place to be, isn't it?
Yeah. So we continue to talk about new countries as well. So we've got discussions in Mexico, Brazil. We've just had our first shipment to the Middle East, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And Far East is, Japan, China, Malaysia's going really, really well for us. So
brilliant.
So very exciting things, and really could do with a trip over there.
Yep, that works. If you need anyone to carry your bags, just give me a shout. Well, John, thank you so much for spending some time again and the update, and I really wish you really well. And I think one thing I'd urge you to do is look at your track record. When we started the first interview, we talked about longevity, and you don't achieve that sort of longevity without the ability to know how to keep going.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I really think you should, because it's like, it is a hell of an achievement, and that should give you, while the past isn't the future, if we've learned our lessons, then there's no reason it can't continue in a very positive manner.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so anyone that might be watching, if they would like to get in touch with you or the company, what's the best way of doing so?
Just email me, john@northbrewing.com. Yeah, that's the best way, because don't ever leave a message on my phone. because I'm not going to listen to it.
Fantastic. That's good advice for anyone. So then, whatever you do, send an email. Brilliant. Well, John, thanks so much, and maybe we can swing by again in another 12 months and just see.
Yeah, that'd be ace.
Exactly where we are. Brilliant. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.